let me say this a little differently than I have before. Most of you have never actually experienced your business working. It's true. Most of you have never actually experienced your business working. And I don't mean making money. Your business has likely made money. I don't mean growing. You have likely experienced some growth in your business. And I don't mean holding things together, because we probably can agree that you are likely holding lots of things together. So I don't mean those things when I say you haven't experienced it fully working. But I do mean working in a way that doesn't require you to constantly be in the business. Now, that you probably haven't experienced yet. And I say yet because it is possible to have. But right now, if you're being really honest with yourself about where your business is at and how it's functioning and what the structure and the systems in place are, if you're being really honest with yourself about that, things probably move only because you're paying attention, because you're the one constant who is always in the middle of everything. Now, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that. There's not. Things get decided because you step in, and that makes sense. Things get cleaned up because you catch them, also makes sense. And there is some element of that that may always be present. But the truth is, you've also gotten really good at stepping in, and you've gotten really good at cleaning things up because you're catching them. In fact, you have likely gotten so good at it. And I do mean so good at it because the business is your identity and this is your style of leadership. And stepping in feels like it's part of the norm of how you function and operate. But you have likely gotten so good at all of that that you've even stopped questioning it. It feels so normal. It feels so natural. It feels so second nature for you to step in, to clean it up, to check in with it, to really be present with it all the time. Probably too present with it, probably too involved. And if you were being honest with yourself, you could likely admit that it feels as though it only operates when you are that present, when you are that involved, when you are constantly at the helm. And again, nothing wrong with that. There's oftentimes that's how we begin. That's how we start the business. It's what is needed from us in the beginning of our entrepreneur journey. And while that is true, there is also a version of leadership where that's no longer required. And that's what I mean when I say that you likely haven't experienced your business working fully yet, because you haven't yet experienced this version of leadership where that level of involvement, that level of presence, that level of hands on every day isn't required. And until you feel that level of leadership that exists and is possible, but until you feel it, you probably don't realize how much of what you've been doing is actually compensation. You likely don't realize it because the norms that have been created in your business structure are dependent on you. And those are habits, those are patterns, those are ways of being that you have leaned into. After all, there's a part of you that likely is the identity of your business, and your identity is tied to your business. And so it makes sense that there's a part of you that believes it will only function or function well with you in the middle of it all, with you stepping in, with you cleaning it up, with you holding the hands to make sure that everything is done just right, just so that your vision is being held and everyone is being held to that standard, that level of expectation, except that you don't actually let them handle things. Your authority isn't really lying with those that you have given responsibility to. You see, you didn't build something that runs. You didn't build a business that runs. However, you have likely to this point built a business that you can run. And there's a difference. There's a difference in building something that runs, yours, you've created it, but it runs, versus building something that you run, that requires your every moment, your every breath, your undivided attention to be always present. That's actually where pressure lives. And you know what I mean by the pressure because you have been carrying this weight for a long time. You know what that pressure feels like. You know where it lives within your structure, your system. And you know how much of it you feel like you're carrying on your own shoulders. Because if the business works because of you, then it's always going to require you. If it works because of you, because you're always involved, you're always there to answer the questions, you're always there to give the directions, to clean it up, to pick up the pieces, to move the needle forward. If that's how it gets everything done, then it's always going to require you. And that level of dependency means that it's always going to run when you run it and not run because the business has been structured and organized and the systems have been created so that it can run whether you are physically present in there or not. So before the shift that can happen where the business is running, not you running the business, before the shift, you likely already in this moment so far wake up and your mind is probably already on going a million miles a minute before your feet ever hit the floor. It feels like your brain never shut off. You probably don't even feel like you got a really good night's sleep because your brain is on and running. You're already off to the races. You're scanning for everything that needs to be done in that moment, in that day, in that week, in the ones to come, and for who and by who, and how much is on your plate, and all of the other competing priorities. You're already scanning all of that information. And you're already mentally trying to figure out how you're going to get it all done, how you're going to make it all work, and still come home and live your life too. So you're already scanning, you're already looking for what's pending, what didn't close, what didn't get completed, what else are you going to need to do today? And you're probably trying to anticipate what things haven't shown up yet, what things haven't come up yet, what problems haven't surfaced yet, because you're always on. And even if nothing is technically wrong, there's this sense of pressure. There's this sense of weight. And as you wake up, it's sitting on your chest as your brain is going a million miles a minute. trying to run through all of the things, all of the to-dos, all of the scenarios, all of the what ifs, all of the problems. And that pressure just keeps building. Because the truth is, it feels like if something drops, it's going to land squarely on you. That has been your experience. That has been the way things have operated up to now. That has been how the business was built to function. So throughout your day, it is going to feel like you're not doing just your role. As a matter of fact, before your feet ever hit the floor, you likely already feel like you're doing multiple roles as you are thinking about all of the things that need to be considered, that need to be addressed, that need to be concerned about, that need to have the what if contingencies in place. So you're not just doing your role, you're also clarifying things as you run through them and as you make your notes and as you get your day started. You are also redeciding things, clarifying things, checking things, probably multiple times as you have handed them off and taken them back, handed them off and taken them back. The rechecking and the redeciding of things and the anticipation of things as you are trying to stay one step ahead of everything. This constant pressure because you are constantly anticipating when the next thing will fall, when the next problem will show up, when the next issue will require your attention, your time. So you are in this constant state from the moment your eyes open and you move about the day. You are in competing roles. You are feeling as though you're doing it all, navigating through everything. And there's this pressure, this constant pressure that just kind of seems to hang out with you. Now, it may feel subtle. It may not feel like this overwhelming pressure because you've likely conditioned yourself to expect it and experience it and think it's normal. And so you just carry it. But it will be constant. There's just this constant something underneath that's off. There's this constant nagging, this constant pressure, this constant unsettled space as you are stepping into your day with a mountain of things that you believe need your attention, and likely some do, with a mountain of things that will need some version of you to put your pulse on it, to put your finger on it, to involve yourself in it. However, when we start to shift, out of the way that has been operating, where your business only runs with your presence, then things can start moving. And you're going to realize that things can start moving and you didn't touch them. You'll start to see that a decision gets made, or that maybe a situation gets handled, and you'll start noticing that it didn't require escalation. It didn't require your immediate follow-up, but that things were moving, things were getting done, things were progressing without you in that every moment. And now your first reaction is probably going to be, hold up, wait. Because for so long, that's not been how your business runs or how things operate. And so it's going to feel uncomfortable at first. And it's going to be this whole pump the brakes situation. And your immediate response is likely going to be, ooh, should I check that? Should I double check that? Do I need to glance at that? Do I need to just go over it one more time? Should I be in that? Does it need my involvement, my hands, my decision making, my thoughts? Should I have my hands in that? Should I have my hands on that? Should I be in the middle of that? You'll start, all of these shoulds will start popping up because this feels so uncomfortable and unfamiliar to you. But actually, that is the shift when you start to recognize that decisions can be made without you, that things can move forward without you being in that moment, and that there are others that you have put in place, your team, your staff, you've put them in place, and they can own the decision making. They can have ownership of the pieces and the parts and the task, the production and the performance. That they can own those things. But it's going to be uncomfortable at first, because while you may know that it's possible, and you may know that your team is capable, and you may know that the very thing you've asked and wanted from them isn't what you've allowed to happen yet, it's going to feel uncomfortable when it happens. And the truth is, it's because that you're so used to being the point of movement. So you're so used to being in the center. The identity for you is being in the middle of it all. And so when movement happens without you, it feels pretty unfamiliar. It probably is pretty uncomfortable. It probably feels really foreign, and it probably doesn't sit well. And if you're not really aware, and if you're not really paying attention, and if you're not willing to hold to the shift, then you'll probably find that you step back in. And you'll probably not notice when you first do it. You may not catch yourself at first, but you'll probably step back in. And it won't be because it's needed. They didn't need you to step in and solve a problem, or need you to make a decision, or need you to review or handle something. You will likely be stepping back in because it's familiar, and it is less uncomfortable for you to step back in where it's familiar than it is to hold out, to stand off to the side and allow the business to move, allow the decisions to move, allow the team to move. Realizing that you're not needed in the middle is uncomfortable, and likely even an identity crisis, because you have conditioned yourself over time to be the glue that holds it all together, to be the center, and to be in the middle of it all. As much as you wanted the freedom from that, you also can't let it go. And so if you let it hold, though, if you can stay the course, if you can get through the uncomfortable spaces, if you can allow it to unfold, you'll see that everything changes. You'll start to realize and recognize and experience that you no longer have to split yourself and your time and your energy across everything. That big, long list of pressured items that you start your day out with, where you're trying to be everywhere, all at once and for everyone. You're no longer going to feel the need to split across all of that. And instead, you're going to feel and experience this sense of focus, this sense of clarity, because you don't have all of that swirling around, because things are getting done and being taken care of and being executed without your need to be in the middle of it. And so you're going to see that you're more focused, you have more clarity. You're going to start being able to think further ahead, because right now, if you're always in the middle of it, you're always being sucked back into that moment that you're not strategically moving ahead. There's no capacity, no time. And in this shift, you're going to start to see that you're making better decisions. In fact, you are leading very differently. Your leadership has shifted, has changed, and you're no longer leading out of pressure. You're leading from presence. And it's uncomfortable, but it's also remarkable. It's very freeing to start leading from presence and not pressure, to start acclimating to your business running and not you having to run the business. And so while this shift may be subtle, there'll be a moment where it all clicks and you just start to recognize how things have been progressing and how you have been taking more of a step back. And then that's going to open up the space. Now, again, the space is likely going to feel uncomfortable at first. I mean, you're the owner and the business, and this has been your identity, and being in the middle of it and leading at the helm and being the stopgap for everything has been your identity for so long. And now there's this space where pressure used to be the signal, and now there's less of that or none of that. And now the way you wake up every morning and the thoughts that you start out with are so different. So without the pressure being the signal, without all of that first morning run through, brain on auto, going through all of the anticipation of what's to come, you're going to feel like something could be off. And I want to challenge you in that moment to sit with that space of being uncomfortable and to allow the experience to occur without you stepping back in. Because that is actually the point where most leaders go back. They find that they can't sit with that level of uncomfortable in that space because it feels so different. And so what they do is they go backwards. And so they step back in to the very things that they've been shifting out of. They step back in because it's what they know, because it's more comforting, because it feels natural. And this space feels so uncomfortable and so out of character that they haven't calibrated to that identity yet. And I'm going to challenge you to sit in that uncomfortable space, to hold it, to give it pause and let it resonate and allow it to exist with you so that you don't jump back in. And so I guess what I'm really asking for you is that you lean into your faith and really trust what's been built. Really trust that it can stand on its own. Really dig into your faith, into your beliefs of who you are, what you're capable of, what's meant for you, what's available to you, and trust that what you've been building, what you've built, is where it's at and can sustain on its own. And then I want you to really feel into the fire in your belly, really step into that fire and hold it, hold that intensity, because I don't want you to step back in. So resist the urge to step back in as you're shifting your new pattern of leadership. Hold steady, right? Because as you do so, your frequency is going to amplify and it's going to calibrate to that level of steadiness. And you can start leading from steadiness instead of pressure, instead of urgency, allowing this shift to embody your space in your identity. I mean, this is the work. This is the moment. This is what you've been asking for and haven't yet built. When you do this work, when you sit in through these spaces, when you allow things to grow and progress without the pressure, but rather your presence, then you can remove the need for you to be the one everything depends on. And what a feeling it is to know that everything doesn't have to depend on you. And that you get some time back and some energy back and some freedom back and some room to breathe back. So the business can function as you've always desired it to. The business can function without requiring you. And sit with that. Embody that. Allow that to integrate for you. The more you do, the more you practice, the more you sit with it, the more you hold that space, and even in the uncomfortable space, the more you can integrate with it, the more it becomes your new identity, the more it becomes your operating system, your structure in your business. Because if everything still comes back to you, if you shift up and then shift back, and you shift again, but then shift out instead of actually holding into the shift, if everything comes back to you, that's structure. And it can change. You can change it. It doesn't have to shift back to you to be the structure. You can shift so that the business can run without you running it all the time. So hold that space. Hold that uncomfortable space and allow it to fully immerse you as you change and shift into the new level of your leadership. It doesn't just start working. It doesn't just start working all of a sudden. It doesn't just start happening immediately and overnight. It doesn't just start working without your working it. But if you step into it and if you allow it, if you embody it, it changes how you experience leadership entirely. For yourself, for your business, and for your team. Because you will now teach them how to lead differently as you model how to lead differently, as you embrace the shift of how you can lead from presence and not pressure.
Leadership isn't what you perform, it's what you embody. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone ready to lead differently. And remember, when your faith ignites your fire amplifies your frequency. Until next time.